Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Welcome back to This Just In Radio Show, broadcasting live from ViVE 2026 in sunny LA. Very excited to introduce my next guest and great friend of the show, Dr. Rasu Shrestha, Chief Innovation and Commercialization Officer and Executive Vice President of Arcadia Health. Welcome back to the show, my good friend.
Thank you, Justin. Real pleasure to be back. And as always, you bring in the energy, you bring in the insights, and you bring in the candor, which I think we need more of in healthcare.
Thank you, my good friend. It's so good to see you. First of all, it's been a couple good days here for you.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It really has.
You've been traveling a lot.
Well, I like to think that I have not, but the reality is the job demands it, right? And as we've grown as a health system, and as we've embraced this notion of a partnership ecosystem, it requires that level of travel because healthcare innately is so human, right? It's not about just a business deal. It is about trust and building those relationships and then getting to the promised land of delivering on those promises. So it requires a bit of travel, I guess.
So in that direction, What are you most excited about seeing in the industry right now?
Well, there's so many things that are exciting in the industry right now. Specifically, Justin, this notion of agentic AI, right? I mean, here we were, I think maybe a year ago, you and I were talking about generative AI and all of the amazing exponential shifts that are happening in healthcare as a result of Gen AI. And now this next level up of agentic AI, right? Where, we're not just talking about AI that gets prompted and commanded to a specific siloed task, but we're talking about really a continuum of intelligent agents that are able to orchestrate, and really tackle some of the bigger challenges that exist in healthcare as well. I think the tremendous advancements that I'm seeing around that and the promise thereof, and there's more to come, more to come, is something that really excites me.
So specifically, and this is what I've been on some fun panels lately and talking specifically from a care strategy perspective, is there any agentic AI that you're saying, oh my gosh, we're starting to see some great results from this, or really improving the care here, better outcomes here, or anything there on the agentic AI side on the care strategy?
Just simple things, right?
This is always the best. Yeah.
Simple is always the best. I mean, you think about imaging, right, and the capability of agentic AI agents around imaging, and where you're able to really look at and then continuously survey opportunities to not miss findings, right, and really look at more of a continuum versus a siloed, one image or one case at a time. The other, again, simple example is around call centers. Right, the opportunity for agentic AI agents to really empathize and have those long, sometimes tedious conversations at a very, and this is the irony of it, human level,
right? Yep.
With patients in any language, with a level of patience and time, and even empathy.
Yeah.
That sometimes is missing in the busy schedules of us human beings and us clinicians. I think that is just remarkable, and it's something that we need to double click.
I'm glad you said that, because you double click there, because also that specifically, we don't think about that. I don't want to talk to a robot. Oh, wait a second. I mean, think about even the insight. You talk about all those adjectives, but then you add an insight that they're going to have that a human may not have.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily talking about your care provider, but you're talking to a call center.
Correct.
And you're looking to navigate care in some way. I love that. Great example. What are you personally most passionate about that you're currently working on?
Well, it'd be a lost opportunity if I didn't share with you the passion that I have in continuing to build out our innovation partnership ecosystem. You and I've talked about how healthcare is really hard, and there's no one entity that can try to solve for healthcare, and that's not how it works, right? But it takes intentionality. It takes a level of a carefully curated ecosystem of the right partners coming together with the right incentives that are aligned around the right pain points that are identified, and I think that's important. And so, as we've continued to build out the Innovation Quarter, IQ, up in Winston-Salem, and then this past year, we went live with the Pearl Innovation District in Charlotte. Just tremendous levels of energy and activity and talent and investments and startups and large tech and others really coming to the innovation districts that we're building, and then bringing a level of focus that, again, that level of intentionality that I described, which I think is really critical. So super excited about that, Justin.
I love it, love it. I kind of know this answer as a friend of yours, but what is your goal for coming to LA and ViVE 2026 and being here right now?
Yeah, well, it's just to talk to you, man.
Right.
Yeah. Well, look, my goal really is, again, to that notion of intentionality, being very purposeful in terms of having the right dialogue to move specific strategic priorities forward for advocate health, right? So as we are now really, pretty deep in our 5-year strategic plan that we call Rewire 2030, one of the big elements of that plan is our academic and innovation partnership ecosystem that we're continuing to really push forward with. So a number of really important conversations with the right CEOs and CIOs that happen to be here at ViVE that really are moving those conversations forward. This morning, a great dialogue with a trifecta of partners that are working with us in Medtronic, Stryker, and Johnson & Johnson. And it was like superbly, productive in the dialogue that we're having, and there are other partners as well. But yeah, so that level of intentionality that, speaks specifically to the strategic priorities that we have. Because in a meeting like this, you can get inundated with, the myriad of industry friends that you have, and those meetings, and you go from one meeting to the next meeting and then you get lost, right? And the signal to noise ratio doesn't become as valuable to you. So that level of focus and intentionality is really important.
I think, and I'm going to double click on that, because I think intentionality and focus is critical for all aspects of our life, not just for what we're doing, but even in your relationship. You put that into your relationship with your children, your wife, your spouse, your whatever, your partner. I think it's critically important, because I happen to do that. I crossed over 50 years old, and really reflecting back on what do I want the next 50 years to be like, and I'm much more intentional about every moment in my life. Time's always been the most valuable thing to me, and obviously the most valuable thing on the planet. But being very intentional with my time and very focused. And you're pretty. I think we're both fortunate. We can focus on a lot of things, but we do focus on the really important stuff. And what you accomplish in this world is pretty amazing. We've been friends for a long time now, so I've seen a lot of what you've been able to influence. You continue to do. So it's awesome to see and be a part of it in different ways. What do you? So I guess going down that path, we have hymns coming up in a couple of weeks. What do you look, so past hymns, what do you have coming in May, June, July that's, that you're excited about? Or do you take a little bit of a breather, and then obviously fall is always really busy for us? So
in terms of, again, that level of intentionality and focus, one of the things I'm super excited about is the work that we're doing to launch what we're calling our Advocate Health National Center for Clinical Trials. Right, this notion, Justin, of clinical trials as it exists today is painfully wrong. Right, 5% of patients who can qualify for a clinical trial end up signing up for a clinical trial. 5%, right, and forget about them being retained for the duration of the clinical trials, right? If clinical trials was an airline, this would be an abysmal and catastrophic failure, right? And so how do we solve for that? How do we, really address some of the pain points that exist in clinical trials today? Clinical trials is sort of a last-ditch effort. You've done everything else. You've tried everything else, all the heroics, and you're like, oh, have you heard of this one clinical trial? But, oh, my goodness, you have to be next to an NCI-designated cancer institute, or, in a tertiary care center, or, in a large metropolitan like Charlotte or Chicago. So how do we make sure that clinical trials becomes just another care modality that is available for all, regardless of whether you're in the ruralest parts of the country or whether you're next to an NCI-designated cancer institute, right? And therein lies the opportunity for Gen AI, agentic AI, the power of partnerships done right, the opportunities for us to advance the science and the medicine of all of the elements of clinical trials, and really then to say, all right, let's build those inroads right from sort of the patient experience to the clinical workflows integrated directly into the epics of the world, directly then back to those data repositories with the right inroads into pharma, life science companies, device companies, right? And expediting that, making sure that you're able to create a much more streamlined set of processes as a platform, right? That's what we're really excited about. We're investing in this in a pretty massive way across Advocate. It is a big deal for us, and I think that is one specific thing that we're very intentional about and very focused on.
I love it. And you bring up a great point. I'm actually decided last year at Health, that kind of sparked just conversation with actually, Kamal Jafwani and Aneesh Parikh. We're having some fun with some cancer discussions, and I dedicated almost my entire 2026 radio show series to cancer innovation. And what CancerX is doing, Moffitt's doing a little bit,
Absolutely.
but specifically on CancerX, and obviously Advocate's a big supporter and partner there. So I'm going to circle back on that. And you guys, that goes into your whole ecosystem of what you guys do at Advocate. But even bringing that, what's inspiring to me is we're bringing care through where AI and agentic AI and generative AI, we talk about, we're bringing it into the rural settings. We're obviously a long way to go, but this is the promise of what we can do with AI and bringing care into our communities much deeper. Certainly these rural communities that desperately need it, but then you get something, maybe you might have, because access right now is a big, I learned enough time for all of this. This is what I'm doing this whole series on. Your survivorship is a direct correlation to how close you are maybe to a cancer institute or some of the top doctors.
Correct.
That's not necessarily fair.
Correct.
We can really change that, and we absolutely can.
Absolutely.
If we can harness the care strategy and the technology innovations here that we absolutely are staring at right out in front of us.
Exactly.
Here, within cancer alone. So anyhow, I'm very passionate about that. That came out of nowhere, and I decided, I'm going to focus a lot of that in 2026, getting the good messaging out there, getting all these great people together, and we can talk about it.
Well, good for you. And as you know, we're super excited about this under the leadership of Dr. Ruben Mesa, who's the president of our cancer service line, which is a national service line across Advocate Health. We are really on an exciting trajectory forward. Alongside Moffitt, we are, consortium supporters and members of CancerX and really leading that charge forward. I think the opportunity for us to specifically address not just clinical trials as I described it, but also, things like financial toxicity, right? And access, as you rightly pointed out as well. And how do we leverage the power of the platform to democratize access, right? Regardless of where you are and who you are, right? I think it's really, really critical, and that's the promise that we're continuing to dive into, and we're determined to solve for that.
We're going to deliver on it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Dr. Rasu, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you,
You're
Justin.
awesome. Appreciate you. Welcome back to This Justin Radio Show, broadcasting live from ViVE 2026 in sunny LA. I'm very excited to introduce my next guest and great friend of the show, Aneesh Chopra, author, innovator, former and first CTO, chair of Arcadia Institute, and great friend of Justin Barnes.
Amen. Amen.
And a big welcome back to the show, my good friend. How are you?
I'm great. I couldn't be happier. I just came back from India, where the Prime Minister hosted all the global leaders on an AI Impact Summit, and the enthusiasm was through the roof. We're going to shift from discussions about models and sovereign AI and supply side to how do we give impact to people in rural villages and to really democratize. So I'm just ecstatic.
You probably don't know this about me, but I actually have 25 children in Cambodia that I take care of, and most of them live in a rural village. I'll talk about a whole other conversation. Yeah, I've had them for 11 years now. Yeah, they're phenomenal. One here lives in America. One lives here, Isaac Makara, but 24 in Cambodia that are amazing kids in a rural. Yeah. Oh. So anyhow, it's been an amazing few days here for you.
I just got here, so it's the start of a great day or two.
There you go. Exactly. This is an action-packed show. I'm here for 48 hours, but it's kind of in and out. But everybody's here, which is awesome. What are you most excited about seeing in the industry right now?
I'm going to cheat and say that I'm most excited about the industry's response to really thoughtful policy, which I think is going to make a big impact. Amen. So there are three that have me focused right now. Health tech ecosystem. We're going to cover that tomorrow on stage. I'll be interviewing Amy Gleason specifically around how to call more health systems and health plans into action. We're going to level the playing field so consumers get access to data. Health plans and health systems can work with each other in a fair and appropriate way. So number one, data liquidity through health tech ecosystem. Number two, I think the access model we're going to look back on in a decade and say, what was the catalytic moment that allowed us to bring real productivity gains to healthcare? The AI model called Access will basically decouple CPT codes and time and documentation burden,
Yes.
so that one physician with an army of AI agent interns can treat thousands and thousands of patients who need help managing hypertension. That's going to be a game changer. And then I think the Rural Transformation Fund, by concentrating 50 billion, meaningful use was 35 billion. This is 50 billion in rural markets, and you can't subsidize losses, build buildings, or otherwise take on ongoing losses or investments. So it's going to basically force an R&D investment into technology, data innovation that we can incorporate into the delivery of care, and hopefully we'll learn much faster how to bring about better access at lower cost all over America.
I love it. Very well said. Actually, I'm speaking on access on Friday this week, so I love that you brought it up. Perfect timing. What are you working on that you're most passionate about personally?
I'm a volunteer in the health tech ecosystem to try to recruit as many stakeholders to be a part of it as I can. This is a big moment for us as a country. We've been at this interoperability game. Justin, you and I have been talking about it now for 15 years. I feel like I'm always overhyping. We're there, it's solved. We got Fire API regulation, we got CMS incentives. We felt that the pieces and parts were there. Amy Gleason has really orchestrated the right balance. There's trust in the community she's built and the actual work to be done. A little tweaking of the tech for sure, but a lot orchestration and trust. And with that in droves, one can make a meaningful impact. And so I'm going to volunteer every waking hour of my day towards that cause.
I love it. And we were just singing your praises, Ashwini and I, about FHIR, because they're using, obviously, in the oncology space, FHIR is the interoperability standard for a lot of their 192 centers, 196 centers. So we were singing your praises. So keep that charge up. I know we've been talking about interoperability for 15, 16 years, however long. It's been a long time, but we're getting there. We're all staying faithful to that, and we will continue to be, of course. I know this answer because I see you. Anybody that knows me, your friend, knows this answer. But what are your goals for ViVE 2026 specifically, and what do you hope to accomplish while here in LA?
Number one, it's to recruit more early adopters. Welcome to the public-private collaboration party.
Yes.
I was just with Patrick McGill, who's just outside the booth, who's the CEO of Community Health Network, and like most CEOs, hadn't been properly briefed on all the detail, but knows it instinctually and was like, of course we're going to be a part of all this. And so I'm going to hit him up as soon as we wrap, and he'll ping Epic and he'll ping his stakeholders and they'll get on board, and it's going to be great. So if we can get a half a dozen more health systems to be early adopters, to come in, to test, iterate, and scale what works, man, we can make much faster progress. So that's my number one goal.
So what's a one-stop shop for my listeners that are in health system? I mean, they're 50% of my listenership. So what would you tell their leadership or them as leaders? Where can they go? Where's a single point of, is there a spot or one or two places?
So there's a website. If you Google Health Tech Ecosystem CMS, you'll see a homepage with a video by Amy Gleason and all the detail. What's the interoperability framework you commit to adopt? What are the use cases that you're going to support? Who are the early adopters? It was 60, now 600 organizations, updated weekly. By the way, states are there. Louisiana and Pennsylvania are the two co-chairs of states, red state, blue state, to drive this across their respective commonwealths. The second option is that Amy just posted a podcast with Keith Figlioli, our buddy of LRV, and they spent, I think, 45 minutes together, and she went much greater detail. If you wanted to hear her voice, tell you why this is important. I think those are two critical places, and I'll try to pop up some more examples along the way so people can feel comfortable that the water is warm if they were to participate.
Absolutely. Off topic a little bit, but I've not talked to Steve Posnack in a couple of years. Have you talked to Steve recently?
Of course.
Is he doing
Steve is in the family.
I know.
Steve,
I love him dearly.
In fact, you prompted me to tell the third resource. On the healthit.gov website, which is ONC's Bible, Steve Posnack authored a beautiful piece called The Tide and the Speedboats.
Okay.
That blog post I highly recommend to everyone. In it, he explains, here's what TEFCA does. It's kind of like the rising tide that lifts all boats, right? It's the minimum floor for the model. But the speedboat gets you there faster, gets you to shore faster. So if you want to move faster towards a future where data is more liquid and applications are deployed that help people get better care, you might want to jump on a speedboat knowing full well that the tide will come in, so we'll all get to the same destination at the pace that works for us. So Steve nailed it. And obviously we're in a very special moment. We just deregulated with HTI-5. That's going to wipe out a lot of the burden of like micromanaging what is an EHR. you can see that the tail end of that is going to be HTI-6, which is going to be the reimagining what an ONC regulatory model looks like. It could be API first, API expansive. So you can really imagine a virtuous flywheel where the speedboats and health tech ecosystem inform future rulemaking that can scale, that allow you to rise the tide, so to speak.
I love it. Now, Steve's been doing phenomenal work for as long. I mean,
God bless his public service soul.
Amen. So true. So
and
true.
his comedy, man, he's hilarious.
He is. He's brilliant. He's smart. Very witty. Looking at the proverbial crystal ball, what do you see as a strategy or trend that we need to be ready to navigate 2 to 3 years from now?
I think there's going to be a big moment where we're asking ourselves, is healthcare AI inflationary or deflationary? The hype in the room, as best I could tell, is like, oh, this is going to solve mom and apple pie and world hunger and everything else. But the early evidence thus far has been that AI has been inflationary. It's Elevance's quarterly earnings call citing upcoding through ambient listening. Yeah. It's the response by payers like Cigna to automatically downcode when they were trying to avoid some of that upcoding. That kind of ping pong is not great for the system. What's better for the system is if we can start to build towards a future that's in the best interest of the patient. You and I've talked about this idea of a health information fiduciary.
Absolutely.
Where the AI is tuned to the values of our society that's in the best interest of the patient, because inevitably doing more of that will be cheaper and better for everyone. So I want to move towards a fiduciary standard, and I want there to be an acknowledgement that just add AI will not solve the ills. We've got to purposefully inject these core values into the models and then deploy them at scale.
Yeah, I heard an anecdotal story this morning on one of the panels, and it talked about, and I believe this to an extent, they used to deploy care strategy and trying to become, manage their population health and look for indicators and all that. As a plan, they spent tens of millions of dollars on this 10 years ago. But today they can buy a product like that for $50,000 because of AI. So there are some deflationary factors in that regard. However, I totally agree with you. As a health system deploying this for the first time, it's probably inflationary in some ways. But overall, I do believe in the long game.
Well, because the incentives in a fee-for-service system move towards this like ping pong match.
Exactly.
So if AI amplifies what you're naturally trying to do, you all are going to have case studies of I replaced $1 million thing for a $20,000 thing. That's beautiful. We need to have more of that. But if the overall system is trying to squeeze more dollars on the labor hours spent, that's going to be inflationary.
This also goes back to access. Access is using technology. Access type of a model uses technology, and it's not that massive.
You
inflationary.
nailed it.
Yeah.
If you remember, all the AI companies were lobbying for a CPT code. Yeah. They were saying, "Hey, we're going to be a doctor. We'll just pay us half a doctor, a third of the doctor." Right? They were like, "We're going to be just as fee for service as everybody else, but we're going to be cheaper on a unit basis." Well, that ain't going to cut it. No. They said no. They rejected that theory and said, instead, we're going to pay a fixed fee that's going to be outcomes driven. And if you can be more effective and efficient with resources, then you can scale more profitably in a way that's going to be more deflationary. So that one decision to decouple CPT codes from the AI program, man, that's going to be a big, big source of victory for the industry.
It is. We just got to do a better job in education now.
Yes,
engaging that. I'm
sure. Well, a lot of folks are freaking out. They're like, "Oh, the rates are too low, and how dare they?" Well, they're not too low if you start from an agentic AI model up, as opposed to a labor-intensive model down.
That's what I'm approaching it from. So it's exactly right. Very cool. One last question, since we have a second. What is an interesting conference that you may be attending this year that you want to talk about or that you're excited about?
Well, I'm biased in that my favorite of the year always is Health Evolution.
Okay,
I understand.
I think it's something like that.
Well, I'm always interested. Of course, I love the public service ones, Datapalooza being there. But I think the Health Evolution, not everybody listening to this will be attending Health Evolution. It's C-suite, usually the executive team only, so it's limited. But it does allow for candid conversation and coordination in a way that you don't get at long tail 10,000 plus people events where everyone's sort of talking their book, if you will. This gives people a chance to kind of learn with each other and maybe even question some of the old assumptions and move forward in a different direction. So I'm biased. That's my favorite event of the year. I go every April. And I do hope that if you remember, Trump did host the BBDC in the White House, the Blue Button Developer Conference.
Yes.
Note the bipartisanship. Obama coined Blue Button, and it was Trump that Blue Button Developer Conference. God bless America, right? That's where red and blue come together. So maybe they'll come back with a Blue Button Developer Conference, and if so, that will emerge as my favorite, as a great homage to kind of public-private collaboration.
I love it. I love it. And about 20% of my listeners are CEOs. So I think that your mention there is
you got to come to Health. If you come to Health Evolution, let's find the time to have smaller groups that come together and collaborate, which I think is often ad hoc, but quite effective.
I love it. Anish, as always, my good friend, thank you so much.
Justin, you're the man.
Awesome, brother.
Cheers.
Thank you. And a big thank you to all my listeners and supporters who voted us 2024 Podcast of the Year. We're so grateful. Please tune in to this show as it broadcasts weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. As always, you can track me at HIT Advisor on Twitter and then also LinkedIn at Justin T. Barnes. If we can respond to any of your comments from this show, hashtag ThisJustinRadio, and we'll certainly do that. If you miss any of this episode or want to hear more, my shows are posted at YouTube, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Megaphone, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. And also, we just published some new thought leadership out there at justinbarnes.com. But truly appreciate everybody's time and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.